laughed at, then feared. Our 1,000-year-old warship strikes again. Captain Tehan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Phoenix and looked at the massive space station ahead. Unity's Gate was the biggest station in the galaxy. Ships from 100 different alien races filled the docking bays. Their vessels gleamed with new metal and advanced technology. They had smooth hulls and bright lights. They looked like they belonged to the future. The Eternal Phoenix looked like it belonged in a museum. The human warship was old. Very old. It had been fighting for 1,000 years. Its hull was gray and scarred. Burn marks covered the metal plates. Some sections had been patched and welded so many times that the repairs had repairs. The ship was big and blocky. It had no smooth curves or elegant design. It was built like a hammer, meant to hit hard and keep hitting. "Captain, we're cleared for docking in Bay 17, said Commander Jiren. She was a tall woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had served with Taihan for 15 years. She knew what he was thinking just by looking at his face. Taihan nodded. "Take us in. Nice and slow. Let them get a good look at us." Jiren smiled slightly. She knew her captain had pride. Let the aliens stare. Let them see that humans still flew this old ship. Let them wonder why. The Phoenix moved toward the docking bay. Through the large windows, Taihan could see other captains and crews watching them. Some pointed. Some laughed. He saw a group of Valorian officers actually taking pictures of his ship. The Valorians were tall blue aliens who thought they were the best warriors in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and deadly. They had weapons that could tear through planets. First Officer Sung Kang walked up to the captain. He was a stocky man with a scar across his left cheek. "Sir, the Valorians are broadcasting jokes about us on the open channel." "Should I respond?" "No," Taihan said quietly. "Let them laugh. Words are just air." The ship docked with a heavy clang. The Phoenix was not gentle. It was built during a time when humanity fought brutal wars. Back then, ships needed to be tough, not pretty. They needed to survive, not impress. Taihan gathered his senior officers. There was Commander Jiren, First Officer Sung Kang, Chief Engineer Haiwan, Weapons Officer Daewoo, Navigation Officer Yu Na, and Medical Officer Bo Min. They walked through the station corridors toward the assembly hall. Other officers moved out of their way, but not out of respect. They moved because they found the humans amusing. The assembly hall was enormous. Representatives from every coalition race sat in curved rows. At the center stood Ambassador Thex of the Valorian Empire. He was nearly 8 feet tall with blue skin and golden eyes. He wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid metal. When Taihan and his crew entered, Thex smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Ah, the humans arrive," Thex announced loudly. "I see the museum let you borrow their main exhibit." Laughter echoed through the hall. Even some of the human representatives from other ships looked uncomfortable. The Earth Alliance had newer ships now, sleek cruisers with modern shields and plasma weapons. But they were few. Most of humanity's fleet was still old ships like the Phoenix, ships that refused to die. "Captain Han," Thex continued, "your ship is how old?" 1,000 years. "Surely Earth can afford to build you something from this century." Taihan stood straight. His uniform was plain and practical. No fancy decorations. No shining medals. Just a simple gray uniform that had seen years of service. "The Phoenix serves well, Ambassador. She has fought in 42 major battles. She has never been defeated." "Never been defeated," Thex laughed. "Or never been worth the ammunition to destroy?" More laughter. Taihan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The meeting was about patrol assignments. The coalition was dividing up territories to watch for pirates and smugglers. The best sectors went to the biggest fleets. The Valorians got the core worlds. The Krell Dominion got the trade routes. Smaller races got smaller areas. And for the human ship, Thex said with mock thoughtfulness, "I believe the drift sector would be appropriate." The room went quiet. Everyone knew the drift sector. It was empty space on the edge of the galaxy. Nothing happened there. It was a punishment detail. A way to keep unwanted ships far from anything important. Commander Jiren leaned close to Taihan. "Sir, that's an insult." "I know," he whispered back. Taihan accepted the assignment without argument. What choice did he have? Humanity's voice in the coalition was small. They were still the newcomers even after 200 years. The older races made the rules. After the meeting, Tai Han and his crew walked back to their ship. They passed by the Valorian flagship, the Supreme Zenith. It was 5 times the size of the Phoenix. Its hull was white and gold. Energy shields shimmered around it even while docked. Weapon ports lined every surface. It was beautiful and terrifying. "That's a real warship," said a young Valorian officer as they passed. "Not a flying junkyard." Daewoo, the weapons officer, stopped walking. He was a big man with scarred knuckles. He had spent 20 years maintaining the Phoenix's guns. "Say that again," he growled. "Day," Tai Han said firmly. "Walk." Daewoo glared at the Valorian but kept moving. The alien officers laughed at their backs. Back on the Phoenix, the crew gathered in the main conference room. Engineer Hei-Wan pulled up a map of the drift sector on the screen. She was a small woman with grease stains on her uniform. She knew every pipe and wire in the ship. She could fix anything. "The drift sector is 3 weeks away at maximum speed," she said. "There's nothing out there. No planets. No stations. Just empty space and some old nebulas." "It's a punishment," said Yuna, the navigation officer. She was young but skilled. "They're sending us away so they don't have to look at our ship." "Let them send us away," said Bo Min, the medical officer. She was a calm woman who had patched up the crew through countless battles. "At least we won't have to listen to their jokes." Taehan looked at his crew. These people had turned down transfers to newer ships. They chose to stay on the Phoenix. He needed to know why. "Sung, you were offered a position on the Meridian last year. Why did you stay?" Sung Kang shrugged. "The Meridian is fast and has good shields. But it's never been tested. It's never been in a real fight. The Phoenix has. I trust this ship." Taehan looked at his engineer. Hei-Wan smiled. "Sir, I've worked on the Phoenix for 12 years. I know her systems. I know what she can do. New ships are all computers and automation. If something breaks, you need a specialist. On the Phoenix, I can fix anything with a wrench and some wire." "I like that." One by one, each officer gave their reason. They all said the same thing in different ways. They trusted the old ship. They trusted each other. They believed in something the aliens had forgotten. That age meant experience, and experience meant survival. "All right," Taehan said. "We go to the drift sector. We do our job. We show them that old doesn't mean useless." The Phoenix left Unity's gate the next morning. As they pulled away, Taehan watched the gleaming ships of the Coalition fleet. They looked powerful and impressive, but he knew something they had forgotten. War wasn't about looking impressive. It was about still being alive when the battle ended. The old ship's engines rumbled to life. The sound was rough and loud, not the smooth hum of modern drives, but it was a sound that had carried humanity through 1,000 years of war. It was a sound that meant survival. As they jumped to faster than light speed, Taehan looked at his crew. "Let them laugh," he said quietly. "We'll see who's laughing when it matters." Nobody knew it yet, but in 3 weeks everything would change. The drift sector was not as empty as everyone thought. Laughed at, then feared. Our 1,000-year-old warship strikes again. 3 weeks passed slowly in the drift sector. The Phoenix moved through empty space like a whale swimming through a dark ocean. There was nothing to see. No planets. No asteroids. Just the black void and distant stars. The crew fell into a routine. Morning watches, system checks, maintenance, and drills. Life on an old ship meant constant work. Something always needed fixing. A pipe would leak. A sensor would go offline. The air recyclers would make strange noises. Hei-Wan and her engineering team worked every day to keep the Phoenix running. In the engine room, Hei-Wan taught a young ensign named Jin Sol how to maintain the reactor. Jin was 19 years old and fresh from the academy. He had requested assignment to the Phoenix specifically. Most young officers wanted the new ships. Jin wanted to learn from veterans. "See this reactor core?" Hei-Wan pointed at the massive cylinder that powered the ship. "It's 1,000 years old. The new ships have fusion cores that run themselves. Ours needs constant attention. You have to feel it. Listen to it. Know when something is wrong before the computer tells you." Jin Sol looked nervous. "What if I miss something?" "You won't," Hei-Wan said with confidence. "Because I'm teaching you the old way. The way that kept this ship alive through 42 battles. Computers fail. Sensors break, but a good engineer knows their ship in their bones." She showed him how to adjust the plasma flow by hand, how to balance the power distribution without automation, how to coax more energy from systems that should have died centuries ago. It was not easy work. It required skill and patience. But Jinso learned quickly. On the bridge, Yuna monitored her navigation screens. The drift sector was boring. Day after day, the sensors showed nothing. Empty space in every direction. She sighed and sipped her coffee. It was cold. The Phoenix's galley could make food, but it could never make it taste good. Anything interesting? Asked Commander Jiren as she walked onto the bridge. No, ma'am, Yuna replied. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. I've seen more excitement watching paint dry. Jiren smiled. Boring is good. Boring means we all get to go home alive. But then something changed. Yuna's screen flickered. A small blip appeared at the edge of sensor range. She leaned forward and adjusted the controls. Commander, I'm picking up something near the Ash Nebula. It's faint. Could be a sensor ghost. Or could be something real, Jiren said. She pressed the intercom. Captain to the bridge. Taehan arrived within minutes. He was always ready. Even in the middle of empty space, he kept his uniform neat and his mind sharp. What do we have? Yuna transferred the data to the main screen. Unknown contact, sir. It's not moving. Just sitting there at the edge of the nebula. It could be debris or maybe a damaged ship. How far? Taehan asked. 12 hours at current speed. Taehan thought for a moment. It was probably nothing. Space was full of junk. Old satellites, dead ships, pieces of asteroids. But they were on patrol. It was their job to check. Take us in. Yellow alert. Let's see what it is. The Phoenix changed course toward the Ash Nebula. The crew prepared for action just in case. Weapons were checked. Shields tested. Medical bay prepped. They had done this 1,000 times. It was always better to be ready and not need it than to need it and not be ready. 8 hours into their approach, everything changed. The communication system erupted with noise. Multiple signals came flooding in at once. Distress calls. Emergency broadcasts. Screaming. Sung Kang worked frantically at the communications console. Sir, I'm getting emergency signals from the Supreme Zenith. They're under attack. The Valorian flagship? Taehan moved to stand behind Sung. They're nowhere near this sector. They were on patrol near the Corvin system, Sung said, his fingers moving across the controls. But according to this, they moved to investigate something. They found it, and whatever it was, it found them first. The main screen showed a chaotic video feed. The bridge of the Supreme Zenith was in chaos. Fires burned, officers shouted orders, and through the windows behind them, massive shapes moved through space. Ships like nothing Taehan had ever seen. They were organic, living. Their hulls pulsed and writhed like flesh. Tentacles reached out and grabbed smaller vessels. Ambassador Thex appeared on screen. His golden armor was scorched. Blood ran down his face. This is Supreme Zenith to any coalition forces. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Requesting immediate assistance. Repeat, requesting immediate assistance. Our weapons are ineffective. They adapt to everything we throw at them. The transmission cut to static. Then another signal came through. A different coalition ship. This is the Hammer of Dawn. We're taking heavy casualties. These things regenerate damage faster than we can inflict it. We've lost 6 ships already. They're everywhere. The transmission ended with the sound of an explosion. More signals poured in. A dozen ships, 20, 30, all calling for help. All dying. The Valorian fleet was being destroyed. The same fleet that had mocked the Phoenix just 3 weeks ago was being torn apart. How many ships do the Valorians have in that sector? Taehan asked. 52 warships, sir, Jiren said, checking her tactical display, including the Supreme Zenith. They're the largest battle group in the coalition. 52 ships. Modern vessels with plasma weapons and energy shields, advanced targeting systems and regenerating armor. The best the galaxy had to offer. And they were losing. Daewoo looked up from his weapons console. Sir, we're 3 days away at maximum speed. Even if we leave right now, we won't make it in time. How many coalition ships are closer? Taehan asked. Jiren checked the tactical map. 15 different battle groups within a day's travel. They're already responding. Taehan watched the distress signals coming in. More ships dying, more calls for help. He thought about Ambassador Thex laughing at his ship, calling it a museum piece. He thought about the Valorians taking pictures and making jokes. They had thought themselves superior, untouchable. Commander Jiren moved close to the captain. She spoke quietly so only he could hear. Sir, this isn't our fight. We're 3 days out. By the time we arrive, it will be over. One way or another. Taihan knew she was right. The smart move was to stay on patrol. Let the closer ships handle it. The Phoenix was old and slow. They couldn't help. It was logical. It was practical. It was the smart decision. Set course for the Corvin system, Taihan said. Maximum speed. Yellow alert upgraded to red alert. All hands to battle stations. Jiren blinked. Sir? You heard me, Commander. We're going in. But sir, we're 3 days away. The battle will be over by then. Taihan looked at her with steady eyes. Maybe it will. But we're still going. Those are coalition ships. Those are our allies. Even if we arrive too late, we go. Because that's what we do, Jiren straightened. Yes, sir. Setting course now. The Phoenix's old engines roared to life at full power. The ship shook as it accelerated. It was not fast like the newer vessels, but it was steady, reliable. It pushed through space with stubborn determination. In engineering, alarms blared. Heywan ran between stations checking readouts. Give me full power to the engines, she shouted to her team. Reroute everything non-essential. Divert power from crew quarters, galley, recreation areas, everything. Jinsol worked beside her, his hands moving quickly. The reactor is at 98% capacity. If we push harder, we might blow it. Then we pray it holds, Heywan said grimly. Those ships need help. We're going to give them every ounce of speed we have. The Phoenix raced through the void. Behind them, the empty drift sector fell away. Ahead, somewhere in the darkness, a battle raged. Ships were dying. People were screaming. The mighty Valorian Empire was facing something they couldn't understand. Hours passed. More transmissions came through, each one more desperate than the last. The Krell Dominion sent their fleet to help. 12 ships jumped in to assist the Valorians. Within an hour, half of them were destroyed. Whatever these enemies were, they were unlike anything the Coalition had faced before. Taihan stood on the bridge and watched the time tick by. 3 days. That's how long it would take. 3 days of racing through space while people died. 3 days of listening to distress calls. 3 days of wondering if they would arrive to find nothing but debris. In the mess hall, the crew ate quickly and quietly. They knew what was coming. They could feel it. The old ship was heading toward war. Real war, not patrol duty or pirate hunting. This was going to be a fight for survival. Daewoo checked his weapons for the 10th time. The railguns were old technology. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. Simple, brutal, effective. While new ships used plasma and energy beams, the Phoenix still used kinetic weapons. They loved those guns. They never failed. They never needed calibration. Point and shoot. That was all. Think we'll make it in time? Asked a young gunner. Daewoo shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. But when we get there, we're going to hit them hard. On the bridge, Taihan received a new transmission. It was Admiral Kell of the Coalition Command. The Admiral was a Rigelian, a species known for their tactical genius. Captain Han, this is Admiral Kell. I see you're heading toward the Corvin system. I'm ordering you to maintain your patrol route. The situation is under control. Laughed at, then feared, our 1,000-year-old warship strikes again. 3 days felt like 3 years. The Phoenix pushed through space at maximum speed. Every hour brought new distress signals. Every day brought news of more ships destroyed. The Coalition was throwing everything they had at the enemy, and it wasn't enough. The crew learned more about their enemy from the scattered transmissions. They were called the Swarm, an ancient race that everyone thought was extinct 500 years ago, but they had returned. Their ships were alive, made of organic tissue that could regenerate damage. They absorbed energy weapons and adapted to them. The more the Coalition shot at them, the stronger they became. In the engineering room, Haiwan studied the technical reports. She read about how Valorian plasma cannons had blown holes in swarm ships, only to watch those holes seal up within minutes. She read about Krell energy shields being torn apart by organic tentacles. She read about adaptive armor that learned to resist every new weapon fired at it. This is bad, she said to Jinsol. Their technology counters everything modern ships have. Energy weapons make them stronger. Shield frequencies get analyzed and broken. Even the regenerating hull plating gets infected by their biomatter. Jinsol looked worried. So what do we do? Heywan thought for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who just figured out the answer to a hard problem. We don't use modern weapons. We use old ones. She pulled up the Phoenix's weapon systems on her screen. Look at this. We have railguns. Big, stupid, simple railguns. They shoot solid metal slugs. No energy, no plasma. No fancy technology. Just metal moving really, really fast, Jinsol understood. Metal that punches holes. Holes that can't adapt to anything because there's nothing to adapt to. Exactly, Haiwan said. You can't evolve a defense against kinetic force. It's just physics. A piece of metal moving at 0.9 light speed doesn't care about your biology. It just goes through you. She ran to the bridge to tell the captain. Taihan listened carefully. He called Daewoo to the meeting. The weapons officer studied the data and nodded slowly. She's right, sir. Our railguns are designed to punch through heavy armor. We built them during the siege wars when shields didn't exist yet. They're simple but devastating. How much ammunition do we have? Taihan asked. Enough for a sustained fight, Daewoo said. Maybe 20 minutes of continuous fire. After that, we're throwing rocks. Taihan made his decision. When we arrive, all power goes to weapons. No shields, just guns. We hit them hard and fast before they understand what we're doing. Jiren looked concerned. Sir, without shields, any hit could kill us. I know, Taihan said quietly. But shields won't help us anyway. These things break through modern shields like paper. At least this way, we can hurt them back. On the third day, the Phoenix dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Corvin system. What they saw made even veteran crew members gasp. The space around them was a graveyard. Debris fields stretched for millions of miles. Pieces of destroyed ships drifted everywhere. Some were still burning. Some had bodies floating near them. The scale of the destruction was enormous. Yuna counted the wreckage. Sir, I'm reading remains from at least 40 coalition vessels. Maybe more. The debris is too dense to get an accurate count. 40 ships. Dead. The mighty coalition fleet had been torn apart. The Valorians. The Krell, the Rigelians. All their advanced technology had failed them. Where's the Supreme Zenith? Taihan asked. Yuna scanned the area. There, sir. 2 million kilometers ahead. She's still alive, but barely. I'm reading massive hull damage. Her engines are offline. Life support is failing. The main screen showed the Valorian flagship. The once beautiful ship was a wreck. Its white and gold hull was torn and blackened. Entire sections had been ripped away. It floated dead in space, bleeding atmosphere and debris. And around it, the swarm circled like sharks. There were 6 of them. Massive bioships, each one the size of a coalition cruiser. Their hulls were dark and pulsing. Organic matter formed their structure. Tentacles reached out from their bodies, some a mile long. They moved with purpose and intelligence. These were not mindless beasts. They were hunters. Multiple life signs on the Supreme Zenith, Yuna reported. Approximately 3,000 survivors. But their shields are down. The swarm is preparing for another attack. They're going to finish them off. Taihan looked at his crew. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. Engineering, give me every bit of power we have. Weapons, target the closest swarm ship. Navigation, plot an attack run. The Phoenix came alive. 1,000 years of war had prepared it for this moment. The old ship knew what to do. It had been built for brutal, close-range combat. It had survived because it was tough, not because it was fancy. Alarms blared through every corridor. Crew members ran to their stations. Damage control teams grabbed equipment and waited. Medical prepared for casualties. Everyone knew their job. They had trained for this their entire careers. In the engine room, Haiwan rerouted every system. Power from life support in sections C through F. Power from crew quarters. Power from galley. Power from everything that won't kill us immediately. Everything goes to the guns. The reactor roared like an angry animal. It pushed beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed red. The temperature climbed. But it held. It had held for 1,000 years. It would hold for one more battle. On the weapons deck, Daewoo armed the railguns. 6 main cannons lined the Phoenix's spine. Each one could accelerate a solid metal slug to 90% of light speed. The kinetic energy alone could destroy a small moon. They were the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built, and the most primitive weapons in the Coalition fleet. Guns hot, Daewoo reported. Ready to fire on your command. The Phoenix accelerated toward the swarm. The old ship was not fast. It could not dance and dodge like modern vessels. It could only do one thing well. It could charge straight ahead and hit hard. That was exactly what it was built to do. The swarm ships noticed them. They turned their attention from the dying Supreme Zenith to this new arrival. One of them moved to intercept. Its bioscanners analyzed the approaching vessel. Old technology, weak hull. Primitive systems. Not a threat. It would be easy prey. The swarm ship was wrong. Range in 20 seconds, Yuna called out. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. Fire! Tehan ordered. The Phoenix's railguns erupted. 6 solid metal slugs, each one weighing 5 tons, launched from the ship at incredible velocity. They crossed the distance in less than a second. The swarm ship had no time to react, no time to adapt, no time to evolve a defense. The kinetic rounds hit like the fist of an angry god. They punched through the organic hull and kept going. Straight through. The swarm ship's body convulsed. Fluid sprayed into space. Tissue tore and ruptured. The bioship tried to regenerate, but there was nothing to regenerate from. The damage was too catastrophic. Too complete. The swarm ship broke apart. Its sections drifted away from each other, dead and leaking. One shot. One dead enemy. The bridge crew of the Supreme Zenith watched in stunned silence. Ambassador Thek stared at his screens in disbelief. The human ship. The museum piece. The old relic they had mocked. It had just destroyed a swarm vessel with a single salvo. Something 50 coalition ships had failed to do. What? How? Thex couldn't form words. His advanced tactical mind struggled to understand what he had just witnessed. The Phoenix didn't stop. It didn't slow down. It simply moved to the next target. Taihan stood on his bridge with calm determination. Reload, target the second ship. Navigation, bring us in close. I want point-blank range. Sir, at close range they can grab us with those tentacles, Jiren warned. Let them try, Taihan said. We're armored for it. The Phoenix dove toward the second swarm ship. This one was ready. It had seen what happened to its companion. Tentacles reached out to grab the human vessel. They wrapped around the Phoenix's hull, trying to tear it open. The old metal groaned under the pressure. But it held. The Phoenix was built during an age when ships fought at close range. Its hull was thick and reinforced. Made to withstand punishment. They've got hold of us, Sung Kang reported. Hull integrity holding at 90%. Forward guns, fire when ready, Taihan ordered calmly. Daewoo waited until the perfect moment, until the swarm ship pulled them even closer, until they were almost touching. Then he fired. At point-blank range, the railgun slugs tore through the bioship before it could even register the attack. The swarm vessel exploded from the inside out. Its tentacles released the Phoenix and drifted away. 2 swarm ships dead. 4 remained. And the Phoenix was just getting started. The surviving coalition ships watched in amazement. A heavily damaged Krell destroyer that had been hiding in the debris field powered up its weapons. If the humans could fight, so could they. A Regelian cruiser, barely functional, turned to face the enemy again. The sight of the old human warship standing tall gave them courage, gave them hope. The tide of battle was changing, not because of advanced technology or superior tactics, but because one old ship remembered how to fight without relying on fancy systems. It remembered the brutal, simple rules of war. Hit hard, hit first. Keep hitting until the enemy stops moving. Laughed at, then feared. Our 1,000-year-old warship strikes again. 3 swarm ships were dead. 3 remained. But they had learned. They had watched the Phoenix destroy their companions. They had seen the kinetic weapons tear through bioarmor. Now they understood the threat. Now they would adapt. The 3 surviving swarm vessels moved together. They coordinated their attack like a pack of wolves. They stopped trying to absorb the Phoenix's weapons. Instead, they tried to avoid them. They dodged and weaved. They used the debris field for cover. They were learning, evolving, becoming smarter. They're changing tactics, Yuna warned. They're not engaging directly anymore. They're trying to flank us, Taihan nodded. He had expected this. The swarm was intelligent. That made them more dangerous. Keep us moving. Don't let them surround us. Weapons fire as soon as you have a shot. The Phoenix turned hard to port. The old ship groaned with the strain. It was not built for fancy maneuvers. But it could turn. It could fight. Daewoo tracked one of the swarm ships and fired. The slug missed by 100 meters. At the speeds they were moving, that was still too close for comfort for the swarm vessel. It retreated behind a piece of destroyed cruiser. They're using the wreckage as shields, Daewoo growled in frustration. I can't get a clean shot. Then the swarm attacked, all three at once. They came from different directions. Tentacles reached out from the debris field. One grabbed the Phoenix's port side. Another wrapped around the stern. The third swarm ship moved in for a killing blow, its bioweapons charging with stolen energy from destroyed coalition ships. Multiple breaches, Sung Kang shouted. Deck 3, sections 4 through 7. Deck 7 is completely compromised. We're venting atmosphere. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. The Phoenix shuddered as the swarm tentacles squeezed. The old metal held, but it was taking damage. Real damage. In navigation, Yuna tried to break free, but the ship was held tight. I can't shake them loose, sir. They've got us. On deck 3, a tentacle punched through the hull. It was as thick as a tree trunk covered in pulsing biomatter. It swept through the corridor, grabbing crew members. People screamed, some ran. Some fought back with rifles and cutting torches. The tentacle grabbed a young officer and dragged him toward the breach. His friends grabbed his arms and pulled. For a moment, it looked like they would save him. Then the tentacle squeezed and he went silent. Ensign Jin Sol was on deck 3 when it happened. He had been running a power check when the hull exploded inward. The blast threw him against a wall. He hit hard and felt something crack in his ribs. Pain shot through his chest. He looked up and saw the tentacle. It was moving toward him. Jin tried to stand but couldn't. His legs wouldn't work. The tentacle wrapped around his waist and lifted him up. He could feel it squeezing, crushing. His vision went dark at the edges. This was how he died, on his first real mission, killed by an alien monster. He thought about his family, his mother, his sister. He would never see them again. Then the tentacle stopped squeezing. It went rigid. Then it fell, dropping Jin to the floor. He gasped for air and looked up. The tentacle was dead, cut off from its source. The swarm ship that controlled it was burning. The Phoenix had fired a railgun at point-blank range, straight through its own hull into the swarm vessel beyond. The shot had killed the enemy, but it had also torn a massive hole in the Phoenix's side. Damage control teams rushed to the breach. They welded metal plates over the holes. They sealed the corridors. They pulled the injured to medical. Jin Sol was carried away on a stretcher, his ribs broken but his life saved. He had survived. Barely. In navigation, Yuna's console exploded. Sparks flew. She threw up her arms to protect her face. When she looked again, her screen was dead. Navigation is offline, she reported, her voice shaking. I'm switching to auxiliary control. But before she could transfer systems, another tentacle smashed through the navigation section's window. Space opened up behind her. The atmosphere rushed out in a scream of wind. Yuna grabbed her console, but the force was too strong. She felt herself being pulled toward the breach. Toward empty space. Toward death. A hand grabbed her ankle. Sung Kang held on with both hands. He had strapped himself to a support beam when he saw the tentacle coming. Now he held Yuna while the air rushed past them. His arms burned. His grip was slipping. But he held on. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. The section sealed. The wind stopped. Sung Kang pulled Yuna back to safety. She was crying and couldn't stop. He held her shoulder and said nothing. There were no words for what they had just experienced. Navigation transferred to auxiliary, she managed to say between sobs. We're still flying. On the bridge, Tae-han watched his ship die around him. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Navigation damaged. Weapons at 60% power. Life support failing in multiple sections. The Phoenix was tough, but even tough ships could only take so much. Status of the swarm vessels? He asked. 4 confirmed destroyed, Jirin reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. 2 remaining. But sir, we're taking critical damage. We need to fall back and make repairs. Tae-han looked at the tactical display. 2 swarm ships left, and beyond them the Supreme Zenith. The Valorian flagship was still alive. 3,000 people on board. 3,000 lives depending on the Phoenix to finish this fight. How many survivors do we have on the damaged decks? Tae-han asked. Bo Min's voice came over the intercom from medical. Sir, I've got 37 wounded down here. 4 critical. We lost 12 people in the breaches. Another 6 are trapped in sealed sections. And sir, she paused. Jin Sol didn't make it. The damage control team found him. The tentacle crushed his spine. He's gone. The bridge went quiet. Jin Sol, the young ensign who wanted to learn the old ways. The kid who had worked beside Haiwan in engineering. Dead at 19 years old. His first real mission and his last. Taihan closed his eyes for a moment. Just one moment to feel the pain. Then he opened them again. There would be time to mourn later, if they survived. Commander Ji-Rin, order all non-essential personnel to evacuation pods. Get them off the ship. Ji-Rin stared at him. Sir, if we evacuate, we'll only have skeleton crew left. We won't be able to fight effectively. We're barely fighting effectively now, Taihan said. Get our people to safety. That's an order. Ji-Rin hesitated. Then she nodded. Yes, sir. She opened the ship-wide channel. All non-essential personnel, proceed to evacuation pods immediately. This is not a drill. Evacuate now. Throughout the ship, people moved. Engineers left their stations. Gunners left their posts. Medical staff loaded the wounded into pods. One by one, the evacuation pods launched into space, carrying the crew to safety. They drifted away from the dying Phoenix and watched their ship continue the fight. In engineering, Haiwan refused to leave. Sir, if I go, this ship dies in 5 minutes. The reactor needs constant adjustment. I'm staying. Taihan didn't argue. He knew she was right. Understood. Thank you, Hai. On the weapons deck, Daewoo also refused to leave. Sir, someone needs to fire these guns. I'm staying, Bo Min's voice came from medical. I've got wounded who can't be moved. I'm staying with them. One by one, the senior officers announced they were staying. Sung Kang, Yuna, Ji-Rin. They all refused to abandon their captain. If Taihan was staying, they were staying. It was the human way. You didn't leave your crew. You didn't abandon your ship. You fought until you won or you died trying. The Phoenix, now with only 15 people left aboard, turned to face the final 2 swarm ships. The old warship was a mess. Fires burned in 3 sections. Hull plates were missing. Atmosphere leaked from a dozen breaches. The shields were gone. Half the weapons were offline. Life support was failing, but the Phoenix was still flying. Still fighting. Still refusing to die. Eh? Taihan spoke calmly into the intercom. How much power do we have left? Enough for one more push, sir, she replied. Maybe 2 if we're lucky. The reactor is redlining. I'm pulling power from everywhere, including life support. We've got about 10 minutes of air left. That's all we need, Taihan said. He looked at his remaining crew. This is it. One final run. We take out those last 2 ships or we die trying. Navigation. Plot a collision course with the nearest swarm vessel. Weapons, prepare to fire everything we have left. Yuna looked up from her damaged console. Sir, did you say collision course? Yes, Taihan said simply. If our guns don't kill them, our ship will. The Phoenix accelerated. Its old engines, pushed beyond any reasonable limit, roared one last time. The ship charged toward the 2 remaining swarm vessels like a wounded animal, making its final stand. Smoke trailed behind it. Debris fell from its damaged hull. It looked like it would fall apart before it reached the enemy. But it didn't fall apart. It held together through sheer stubbornness, through 1,000 years of refusing to break, through the determination of 15 people who wouldn't abandon their duty. The swarm ships saw them coming. They tried to scatter, but they had been fighting for hours. They were tired, damaged, confused by this old ship that refused to die. They moved too slowly. The Phoenix closed to point-blank range, so close that the crew could see the pulsing biomatter of the enemy hulls, so close that they could see the tentacles reaching out to grab them one final time. Laughed at, then feared. Our 1,000-year-old warship strikes again. The bridge section of the Phoenix tumbled through space. It was all that remained. A small piece of hull, maybe 20 meters across, with 15 people inside. The emergency batteries gave them air. Emergency lights gave them sight. But that was all. No engines, no weapons, no communication, just a bubble of life drifting in a graveyard. Captain Taihan opened his eyes. His head hurt. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. He was still strapped into his command chair. Around him, his crew was slowly waking up. They were alive. Somehow, impossibly, they were alive. Sound off, Taihan said, his voice hoarse. Everyone report. Ji-Rin here. The commander groaned. I think I broke my arm, but I'm alive. Sung Kang alive. I can't feel my legs, but that might just be shock. Yuna breathing. My console is dead, though. Daewoo. I'm okay. Bruised but functional. One by one, they all reported in. 15 people. all alive. It was a miracle. The bridge section had broken away from the main ship during the explosion. It had been thrown clear just before the reactor went critical. The emergency protocols had activated, sealing the section and maintaining life support. They had survived by pure luck. But now they were drifting. No power to move. No way to call for help. The emergency batteries would last maybe 6 hours. After that, they would freeze. Or suffocate. Or both. Well, Sung Kang said with dark humor, we survived the battle. Now we just have to survive the rescue. Will anyone come? Asked Yuna quietly. Does anyone even know we're alive? That was the question. The evacuation pods had seen the Phoenix explode. As far as they knew, everyone on the bridge was dead. The Supreme Zenith was badly damaged. It might not have working sensors. They could drift here for days before anyone found them. Taihan unstrapped himself from his chair. He floated in the zero gravity to what remained of the communication console. It was smashed and sparking. But maybe, just maybe, there was something he could do. He had been a communications officer before he became a captain. He knew these systems. Hey, he called out. If you can move, I need you here. We're going to try to fix this comm system. Heiwan pushed herself through the air to join him. Her engineering uniform was torn and burned. She had a nasty bruise on her face, but her hands were steady. Sir, this console is destroyed. We'd need parts we don't have. Then we improvise, Taihan said. You taught Jinsol that the old ways meant fixing things with what you have. Show me. Together they worked. Taihan pulled wires. Heiwan reconnected circuits. They used pieces of destroyed equipment to replace broken components. It was rough work. Dangerous work. One wrong connection could electrocute them or drain their precious battery power. But they were careful, patient. After an hour, they had something. Not a working communication system, but a basic transmitter. It could send one signal. One message, then it would burn out. We get one shot at this, Heiwan said. One broadcast, it won't be strong. Maybe a few 100,000 kilometers range, but if any ship is close enough, they'll hear it. Taihan nodded. He activated the transmitter. Static filled the air, then his voice weak and distorted. This is Captain Taihan of the Phoenix. We have survivors. 15 people. Requesting immediate rescue. Our position. He read off the coordinates from Yuna's backup display. We have 6 hours of life support remaining. Please respond. The transmission ended. The makeshift system sparked and died. Smoke rose from the console. That was it. Their one message sent into the void. Now all they could do was wait. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The crew sat quietly in the dim emergency lighting. They tried not to think about the air running out, about freezing to death, about dying so close to survival. Bo-Min moved through the cramped space, checking on everyone's injuries. Ji-Rin's arm was definitely broken. Sung Kang had a concussion. Daewoo had cracked ribs. Yuna was in shock. All of them had cuts and bruises, but they would live. If they were rescued in time. I'm sorry I got you all killed, Taihan said quietly. Sir, we're not dead yet, Ji-Rin replied. And even if we were, I'd make the same choice. We saved the Supreme Zenith. We saved 3,000 lives. That matters. Jinsol didn't get to make a choice, Taihan said. He was 19. He had his whole life ahead of him. Heiwan spoke up. Sir, Jinsol knew what he signed up for when he requested assignment to the Phoenix. He wanted to serve on a real warship, one that actually fought. He got his wish. He died doing his duty. That means something. The others nodded. They had all lost friends over the years. It never got easier. But it was the price of service, the cost of protecting others. 2 hours passed, then 3. The air was getting thin. People started to breathe harder. The cold was seeping in too. The emergency heaters couldn't keep up with the void of space pressing in around them. They huddled together for warmth. Tell me something, Yuna said to break the silence. Why did you all stay on the Phoenix when you could have transferred to better ships? It was a question they had all been asked before. Usually they gave simple answers. But now, facing death, they told the truth. Sung Kang spoke first. I stayed because new ships don't have history. The Phoenix has fought 43 battles now, including this one. Every mark on her hull tells a story. Every repair shows survival. I wanted to be part of that story. Daewoo went next. I stayed because the weapons on this ship are honest, point and shoot. No computers doing the aiming. No smart systems making decisions. Just me and the guns. I like that. I like knowing my skill matters. Haewon smiled. I stayed because this ship needs me. The new vessels run themselves. They don't need a real engineer, just someone to watch the screens. The Phoenix needs someone who understands her, who can fix her when she breaks. I like being needed. Bo Min added her reason. I stayed because the crew here is real. On new ships, people transfer all the time. No one stays long, no one builds relationships. Here, we're a family. We take care of each other. I'd rather die with family than live with strangers. Jiren looked at Tai-Han. I stayed because of you, sir. You're the kind of captain who leads from the front, who shares the danger, who doesn't ask anyone to do something he wouldn't do himself. That's rare. That's worth following. Tai-Han felt tears in his eyes. He blinked them away. I stayed on the Phoenix because no one else wanted her, because the Navy was going to decommission her. I couldn't let that happen. This ship has earned the right to die in battle, not in a scrapyard. I guess we're giving her that honor. They all laughed. It was dark humor, but it helped. They were going to die together, as a crew, as a family. There were worse ways to go. 4 hours passed. The air was very thin now. People were getting dizzy. Breathing was hard. Yuna had passed out. Bo Min checked her pulse and nodded, still alive. Just conserving oxygen by sleeping. Then, a sound. A distant rumble. Everyone who was still conscious looked up. Through the broken window they saw lights. Ships. Lots of ships. Coalition rescue vessels were swarming through the debris field. They heard us, Tai-Han whispered. They actually heard us. Haewon laughed weakly. Of course they did. We built that transmitter. It worked. The rescue ships approached quickly. They had been searching through the wreckage for hours, looking for survivors. When they had picked up the Phoenix's weak signal, every vessel in range had turned toward it. The Supreme Zenith had sent every functional rescue ship it had. The Krell sent theirs. Even the Rigelians diverted resources. The first ship to reach them was a Valorian rescue vessel. Ambassador Thex himself had come. He saw the tiny bridge section tumbling through space. He saw the survivors inside. He couldn't believe it. These humans had survived everything. The battle, the explosion, hours in a broken hull. They just refused to die. Rescue teams cut through what remained of the Phoenix's bridge. They carried the 15 survivors out carefully. Medical teams rushed them to emergency care. Every one of them would live. Some would need surgery, some would need physical therapy, but they would all survive. Tai-Han was the last one removed from the bridge section. Before he left, he touched the torn metal of his command chair one final time. Thank you, he whispered to his ship. You did good. The recovery took 2 weeks. During that time, the crew of the Phoenix stayed in medical on the Supreme Zenith. Ambassador Thex visited them every day. The proud Valorian warrior had changed. He was quiet now, respectful. He personally oversaw their care and made sure they had everything they needed. On the 10th day, he spoke with Tai-Han privately. Captain, I owe you an apology. I mocked your ship. I called it a museum piece. I was wrong. Your vessel saved my ship, saved my crew, saved me. I am in your debt. Tai-Han shook his head. No debt, Ambassador. We did our duty, nothing more. It was more than duty, Thex insisted. You disobeyed orders to come here. You charged into battle, knowing you might die. You fought with weapons everyone else had forgotten. You saved us all. That is more than duty. That is honor. 3 weeks after the battle, there was a ceremony at Unity's gate, the same station where the Phoenix had been mocked. But now, everything was different. The assembly hall was packed. Every coalition representative attended. Every ship in the area sent delegates.